Atheists of Reddit, what is one thing you admire about religion? Religious people of Reddit, what is one thing you admire about atheism? Religious temples, no matter the religion, are often incredibly beautiful works of art. As a Christian, I admire that atheists do the good things just for the sake of doing good things. There is no thought of a reward coming in the afterlife of the fear of eternal punishment for not doing them. I had another Christian say to me once, what would be point obeying the commandments if heaven and hell aren't real? Not my beliefs, but it is for many. Edit, I just joined Reddit and this was one of my first times posting. I'm not even sure how Reddit works, I'm still learning. I'm deeply honored by the gold and silver, thank you all so much. I read someone the other day who said, I do rape and murder as much as I want to and how much I want to is none. If the only thing stopping you from raping and murdering is God, then there is something very wrong with you. Words to live by. Edit, several Redditors have suggested that I may be quoting Ricky Gervais or Penn Jillette. I believe that it was the latter that I heard say this. Pouring_sweetness said, Penn Jillette said that, it's a great quote. The question I get asked by religious people all the time is, without God, what's to stop me from raping all I want? And my answer is, I do rape all I want. And the amount I want is 0. And I do murder all I want, and the amount I want is 0. The fact that these people think that if they didn't have this person watching over them that they would go on killing, raping rampages is the most self-damning thing I can imagine. I am atheist. I admire their sense of community. Atheist here, and I completely agree. I went with one of my friends to their all-black church when I was younger. There was a lot of emphasis on community projects discussed in their service, and we even took a break in the middle for everyone to converse with each other and catch up. I could tell this church was filled with good people. However, my grandmother's Assembly of God church was filled of a bunch of old racist people. So it definitely depends on the community. Seriously though. Probably the whitest shit ever, but every year in high school my best friends and I would do a service trip to this church in Harlem during Palm Sunday weekend. It was already set up through the school, it started as us doing it as a requirement. We'd hold a food, clothing drive at school and then just spend the weekend fixing up the church, painting, cleaning the neighborhood. Then, they'd have this big Palm Sunday mass at the end of it. Holy shit was it fun. They made us feel more welcomed and appreciated than any church ever did growing up. I went to a Catholic grade school, which sucked balls. Our first year there, and each year after, the priest stood us all up right before the sign of peace, and welcomed us. It was really special. During the sign of peace I'm used to quickly turning around and muttering peace be with you while half-assedly shaking a stranger's hand. This was so much different. I mean, everyone knows how awesome black churches can be, but I still love telling this story. Okay, so he just welcomed us. Then he says something to the effect of, let's show them how we show each other peace in here. What happens next makes this is the only story in my life where I can say, and then everyone clapped, except they didn't just clap, they fucking started singing and everyone got out of their seats to go mingle with each other. I'm not even kidding when I say it seemed like everyone hugged. It was like the most wholesome party ever broke out in church and it went on for a few minutes. Their sign of peace felt like such an expression of love. Then after mass they had a parade through the streets, and it was pretty much the same thing but outside. Fucking awesome. Anyway, that happened every year we went. Obviously none of the clapping, dancing was for us, it's like that every day there, but the fact that the priest and community made such an effort to welcome us so loudly was amazing. I really miss it. The arts resulting from religion. This is a huge one. Also, the sheer preservation that came from it. People only learned to read so they could read the Bible, and since they were the only people who could read, they were the only people who could write, and so we have them to thank for a good amount of documented history from the Middle Ages. Extremely rarely. 12 was the age of consent, but this was really considered only acceptable in serious needs of the state, usually, princes who were a little older being betrothed to a 12-year-old politically advantageous princess from the neighboring kingdom and it would settle some dispute or someone's dying or something, and almost never would have been allowed in any other situation. Some 40-year-old man couldn't just marry a 12-year-old. The general population could expect between 16 to 20-ish for marriage during the Middle Ages, and that age has increased throughout the Renaissance, Reformation, Enlightenment, and the Industrial Revolution. Good call. I wasn't sure how to answer this one, but I think you nailed it. When I was a kid, I was taken to the local Catholic church by my mother every Sunday. That church is an absolute work of art. Its long width and arched roof. Elaborate stained glass windows along both sides. The arched roof is a painted mural of clouds among which highly detailed cherubs fly, playing trumpets. It continues the full length of the church to the back wall behind the pulpit. That wall is painted with a scene of hell. Flames, writhing, twisted bodies with faces so detailed you can see the anguished expressions from the pews halfway back. I used to spend the whole service just looking at all the details in the murals. Because it had been the only church I had attended as a child, I just assumed all churches were like this. It wasn't until I attended a different one when I was a bit older and discovered it was a rather drab and plain affair that I came to realize how unique my hometown church was. As much as I despise the church now, I still marvel at that building and how amazing the art is. I admire how some churches provide support for the needy with food pantries, soup kitchens, and shelter. I'm atheist and my grandma was extremely religious. My uncle, her son, died a few years ago and it about killed her. She ended up getting diagnosed with leukemia and given a slim chance to survive. She was 100% fine with it because in her mind she was going to see her son and sisters in heaven. I wish I could have that. The only time my lack of religion has bothered me is when my mom died. Suddenly I was jealous of those people who believe in an afterlife where they will see their loved ones again. I didn't have that luxury. And it was painful. I try to not think of someone being gone. Both sets of my grandparents are getting on in years, and it would not be out of the question for any of them to pass away in the next few years. I try to think of their living legacy, their descendants. They're never truly gone if they've left behind children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. If they didn't leave behind biological descendants, then there are people that they've impacted in some way at some point. I don't hope that my family gets into heaven, I hope to see their descendants succeed and be good people. I don't hope to get into heaven one day, I hope to create a positive impact with own life, and to leave a legacy that will do the same. Sorry if this is a mess, I've never tried to articulate this before and I'm on mobile. Atheists seem to care about animals a lot. Good boys are universal. As an atheist, I admire that religion can provide a source of strength, community, and hope for people. Through religion, people find the courage and hope to continue a mundane or excessively taxing existence. People also develop lifelong friendships and support communities through church groups and other religious organizations. I believe these aspects are important to have in one's life. If religion can provide that for some people, then I think that's a great thing. Edit, thanks for the coins, you wonderful people. Whether you're religious or atheist, I hope you all have a wonderful day. That's the reason my aunt, who was a lifelong atheist, joined a church in her later years. She had moved to a small town, and even though I recall she had always been an atheist during my growing up years, she joined a church in that town. She never mentioned her atheism, and I suppose they never asked. I suppose they simply assumed she believed. I think she joined purely for pragmatic, mental and emotional health, and social safety reasons. And by all accounts it was extremely good for her on all those fronts. Most churches I've been to don't care what you believe in, or mostly how you live your life. The thing is, if we say you can't come to church, then there goes our chances of convincing you. That's why I won't go to a church with a no, insert lifestyle here, rule. I am a Christian. I admire how atheists don't judge others based on their sins. That is certainly something us Christians can do better at. Not having a holier-than-thou attitude. I'm a Christian too, and don't particularly care for those churches. It says in John chapter 3 verse 17 that Christ was not sent here to judge, condemn, depends on translation, the world, but to save it. If Christ wasn't sent here to judge people, then who are we to? We're called to love and help all regardless of who they are. Never judge, condemn, or turn away. Sadly though, it's those churches who do this that make the news. Edit, thanks for the silver. I did not expect this level of response, lol. I'm just going to add that I think Christ's base teaching is something everyone can follow, regardless of faith, and it was best summed up by Bill and Ted: be excellent to each other. How much of a better world would we have if we just did this? Atheist here. I really adore seeing the community around religious groups. Support and love for one another makes me a little less pessimistic about the church. As a religious person, I admire atheists' ability to be able to look at all the different options so well. I came in here expecting a bunch of backhanded, thinly veiled insults. I'm pleasantly surprised, although there are still a few of those. As for me, I'm a religious person. Thing I admire most in atheists is the fortitude it can take to say what they believe or don't believe, and to stick to what they believe even when many around them may disagree or even subject them to scorn. I haven't known many atheists to pull any punches or to act like they think differently than they do. In my view, they tend to live their beliefs more openly and courageously than a lot of religious people do. That's an attribute that I myself could do a lot better at. As an atheist, I admire religious people's ability to have faith. I sometimes wonder what being able to have faith is like, as I'm a person that needs a logical explanation for everything. Faith brings people, or at least it seems like it does to me, great comfort and ease of mind.